Yes, welcome back to the Keyed Up podcast. So today we have two good articles to talk about. The first one, we're talking about changes to the rental market for investors. So the article is actually labeled "OFSI Tightens Rules on Rental Income for Mortgages." And what's going to come down the pipeline is it's going to be a lot more challenging for investors to qualify for their mortgages. And this regulator is going to be making those rules a lot tighter. So I'll let Nishan go over what's happening.
Sure.
Nishan, who's OFSI? What's going on?
So essentially, OSFI is the superintendent of financial institutions.
Okay.
They're the ones who oversee and regulate the banking industry. Right. So what's happening right now is OSFI is making it so that clients cannot double dip their income. What does that mean? Salary, rental income they use for one property, they're no longer allowed to be using that for the second property.
Right.
So what does that mean for investors? That means they're not going to be able to qualify more.
Yeah.
Protects the bank, right?
Yeah.
Protects the bank from over leveraging.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, it's just to bring the economy back to an equilibrium.
Right.
Because right now we're double dipping and we're increasing the amount that people are loans that they're getting.
Right.
And when the rental market crashes, these properties are no longer being able to be supported.
Right.
Right. So that's a big topic. I don't know how I feel about that as a drastic change, but it is something that's going to be taking effect in 2026. So there is, if you are keen on becoming an investor, this will probably be a good time to jump in before these changes take effect if you want to qualify for a mortgage.
Yeah.
But that's a big that's a big drastic change.
It's happening. Yeah. So, like, for example, myself, and for context, so even people you understand. So I have, like, at one point have like 8-9 properties.
Yeah.
But by getting a mortgage, I'm able to say, for example, I make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I'm allowed to continuously buy other property by saying, hey, FYI, I make $100,000 a year. When you're renting properties out,
Yeah.
I'm able to say, hey, I'm collecting rent of $40,000 a year rent. So let's say I'm making $100,000, I'm collecting $40K a year, right? I'm able to say, hey, Ben, I'm making this. Now, when I want to go buy a second property, I'm able to say, hey, I'm making $100,000 and $4,000, and then now help me qualify here, then here, and here. And the banks are now saying, no, you can't do that, can you?
Yeah.
You're ground zero.
So and that's
the
why
problem.
OSFI is trying to make it so that we don't overextend
Right.
how much that we can be borrowing, which is very important, and which is what's happening right now. As an investor yourself,
Yeah.
as an investor yourself, you see that, right? So
But it's a problem also. Remember, it's a problem also because what's happening now as well is what they've seen. They've seen a bunch of people use their income so many times to the point where if 5 of your tenants stop paying rent,
Yeah.
your income wouldn't be able to cover all the rent. That's actually the problem. You have people in Canada that own like 15, 20 houses, and they're depending on all of those people to pay their mortgages. And if 5 of them say I'm not paying this month, they literally cannot afford everything. And that's what they've allowed to expand the economy. And now they're pretty much saying, unless your income can actually independently cover 5 mortgages,
Yeah.
then you're not going to get qualified anymore. And that's the problem because we've banked on being able to qualify for all these houses. So anyone now is over leveraged, and it's a problem.
I mean,
Want to
yeah.
stop
The lesson, the takeaway here is for investors: stricter rules,
it.
right? Smaller approvals,
Yeah.
right? And then overall, if you do get past those two, capital requirement will be more asked of you.
But the real problem is, like, you're not going to be able to have an investment property for most people are not going to qualify.
Yeah.
That's actually the biggest problem. The biggest change in the economy right now is
So if you do plan to, I would say speak to your mortgage advisor.
by now.
Speak to your mortgage advisor because the rules are changing.
Yeah.
And if you do plan on jumping in the game, this would be the time to do it.
Yeah.
But I would advise you to speak to your mortgage advisor because there's a lot of changes happening, and you need to be up to date on
Right.
how income is qualified, what changes are happening, and if you are planning for the future, it's critical that you have a game plan put in place now. So you can understand that, because by that time comes where you want to jump in, the rules may put you out of the game.
100%.
Right? So big rule, big changes come from OSFI, and this takes effect in 2026. So
Is there a month yet? Is there a time yet? Where they
early 2026 is what they're saying. They haven't set a final date yet. But yeah, those changes are going to be drastic. Huge. So as I mentioned, speak to your mortgage expert. The policies are changing on how people are how they're calculating income for rental properties. So it's important that you talk to them now so that you got plans and procedures in place for when you're ready to go.
Yeah, so this next article, it says Toronto home prices drop 20%. What buyers and sellers need to know. This is massive. Okay, so what they're basically talking about is all the individuals that, and the article is talking about all the individuals that acquired real estate basically in 2022. All right. I tell all my clients right now that want to sell, they call, they say, "Can I want to sell my home?" And when did you buy it? 2022. What month? January, February, March. You can't sell. Like, I actually just know if you acquired real estate 2022, January, February, March, you're just down. And the article's talking about you're down 20%. And up to this day, they're still down 20%. And this is what the article is talking about. It's still understanding that a lot of people are seeing their neighbors selling still to this day. And they're like, wow, I just lost 200 grand, 400 grand. It's a problem.
Yeah. So there's two sides of this.
Yeah.
Right? The market is down. Sellers are feeling, oh, we just lost some. We're if we sell right now, we're at a loss.
Yeah.
We're losing $200,000 on an average home of $1 million.
Yeah.
But there's an opportunity now.
Right.
Right? For people that were already priced out previously.
Right.
Now we're looking at properties that were once $1 million that they couldn't get.
Right.
Now sitting at 800,000
Right.
or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So there's two sides of this. Sellers need to understand, hey, I am losing money on this, but if I am going to be selling and buying, I am selling low and buying low.
Right.
A lot of first-time home buyers, this is a lucrative opportunity for them.
Yeah.
Right? They're jumping into a market right now where they were previously priced out.
Right.
That are now buying houses that are way below what they were back in 2022.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that with your clientele right now?
Yeah, it's really this mindset, right? So for a lot of individuals, and again, and it's tough, right?
Yeah.
And as for the math behind it, literally down 20% means that if you bought a home for $1 million in that time period, like a couple of years back, it literally means on average you're seeing your neighbors sell for 800,000.
Yeah.
A 20% drop. So that's what you're actually witnessing. That's happening right now a lot. Now, for a lot of sellers, many of these guys bought the home for like $400,000. So are you losing? Not really, because these numbers weren't real anyways, right? If you had to sell. Sellers right now, they're at a standoff between with the buyers, right? And on the market, and you're seeing it. And we're heading into more of a buyer's market. And sellers, you cannot win in a buyer's market. So what we're seeing, a lot of price changes and sellers on the market trying to get this number and it's not working. And they're trying to hold on to this figure. Now, a lot of people, even if they bought the home for $500,000, say back in the day, they're still remembering what their neighbors sold for it. So they're thinking to themselves, I'm losing money, and they don't want to sell, and they're keeping their prices high, and the buyers are like, I'm not paying it. So you have some sellers that don't want to accept the fact that you're down 20%, and they're trying to sell it for 10% under.
Yeah.
And the buyers are like, I'm not going to buy your home. So you're seeing 100 days on market, 200 days on market. It's actually crazy, right?
Yeah.
On the buyer angle, they're now able to get in. I remember with the Rishan, no word of a libro. If your budget was not at least 700, I couldn't help you.
Correct.
I can't help you do anything.
Yeah.
Condos were selling for 7, and I couldn't. If you're telling me, oh, I can afford 600, like 550 what?
Yeah.
But now buyers can actually get into the market because the market is significantly lower. Yeah.
So do you see, yes, I understand that, hey, they bought the house for 500,000. Their neighbors are selling a house for 800,000, but they at one point knew that this house was going for $1 million. So they don't want to don't want to feel like they're losing.
Yeah.
Do you see that changing now that, like, I'm finding our buyers and sellers are doing their own research, they're educating themselves, right?
Right.
So yes, there may be that, oh, I don't want to sell because I'm losing 200,000. But in retrospect, a lot of these clients that we're seeing are doing their own homework, doing their own research, and they're coming to understand this because we can't just be at the standstill,
Right.
where sellers don't want to sell because they know what they could have got.
Right.
And now we're having houses sitting on the market for 100 days, 200 days,
Yeah.
220 days. I think right now our buyers and sellers are getting a little more savvy with the information. Information is readily available, whether it be a podcast, whether it be the internet, whether it be speaking to their mortgage advisor or their real estate agent, right? So yes, the market is down. I do see there the bank is doing everything on their part to get the market back up and running.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's interesting to see because, like you said, it's my neighbor just sold it for 800,000. Yeah.
But you already just said as well,
Right.
it's the education part of it. And this is what I break down to a lot of my clients, right? A lot of people that sold back in 2022, they sold their townhouse for 1.2.
Yeah.
Let's say in Durham, right? They sold their townhome for 1.2, but then they bought their detached home for 1.6.
Yeah.
So there's a $400,000 spread there. You're better off selling, but because the market has dropped significantly, you can now sell your home for, say, $1 million, but you can pick up that detached home for like 1.2.
1.2.
So I tell them, where are you better off? Are you better off selling high and then buying crazy high, or selling slightly lower and buying lower?
Yeah.
You're better off. There are a lot of people right now, I teach all my clients, right? You're better, let's say your neighbor sold for $1 million, but like 2022, but they bought for 1.4. They sold for $1 million, bought 1.4. You're better off selling your home for 800,000 and buying your home for $1 million. Because all those people that sold high and bought for 1.4, they're seeing their neighbors sell for like 1.2.
Yeah.
So everybody's losing. So I always tell people, like, you can't just look at the fact that what your neighbor got
Yeah.
way back. And plus, if you're gonna sell and buy, it's a wash anyway.
It's a wash anyway. And like you just mentioned right now, the margin on a detached for 1.6
Dropped a lot more.
a lot more than this townhouse.
They're panicking,
Right?
So they're panicking.
So I'm gonna leave the lesson here.
Yeah.
The lesson here is if you're buying and selling in Toronto, you really gotta look at the numbers.
Right.
You really gotta understand the market, and the best way for you to do that is speak to a trusted realtor and run the numbers with a trusted mortgage agent. All right?
100%, brother.
Awesome, Ken. That's beautiful. I hope you guys got some gems there. Signing off.
Later, guys.